Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler. There are some human universals that are worth looking at. They are part of our inborn nature, and therefore evolution has favored them. For example, I believe it can be said that every culture throughout history, there have been, there is, it is true that human beings take pleasure in beauty. That seems to be just part of what we are as a species, because you see it everywhere, and if you, and you wouldn't see it everywhere if it wasn't somehow part of our anatomy, virtually, just like we all have the same facial features, eyes above nose, above mouth. All those things that we inherit. One of them seems to be that we take pleasure in beauty. Another human universal is that music is important to people, not necessarily our amusical people, but clearly music is just as widespread as the more general pleasure and beauty. I call these experiential tendencies. And there's another one that seems to be part of our nature, which we infer from the fact that you look through history and across the world, and it seems like there's at least a proportion of people who are capable of a special kind of experience that could be called spiritually transformative. Uh, Not everybody gets these, whether that's inborn or not, but throughout any given community of not very great size, there will be some people who have had sort of deep experiences at a level at which things seem especially real. This is where it's at. This is vivid. People come back from these experiences with what they regard as important spiritual truths. And oftentimes people's lives have, as a result of one of these experiences, a life that was going on in one direction after that experience is going off in another direction. So they're impactful. And that I look at everything through an evolutionary perspective, because that's really the story of how just about everything that we're ever interested in takes place is in an evolutionary process. Particularly the evolution of life, including us. But in a sense, even starting with the Big Bang, things are evolving, elements are being created, organic things are floating in the cosmic dust, and eventually the evolution of life begins on a planet like ours. It's evolution sort of shows what's what. How did it become this way? Well, it evolved in these ways. And with respect to us, the question can be asked whenever we've got some kind of a universal, like it's clear that it's someplace in the human genome on an ongoing basis. We can ask, how did that affect the ability of the ancestors to survive? And we know that must have been the effect that those who had that trait were more likely to get their DNA into the future than those that didn't. There are complications in evolutionary theory about sometimes something isn't necessarily adaptive, but I don't think it would apply to any of these. Why is it that people are musical? Why do we have humor as a part of the human experiential palette? We what is exactly humor? What is laughter about? There are a lot of things that we inherit as a species that we must know we can conclude from the fact that they're there that they were life-serving in some sense. And then the question arises, well, why would we why would we be musical? And I'm not going to venture an answer here. I don't think, that's one I don't think I've, got all that good wood on the ball, but, there are a variety of things. And also I can talk a little bit about what the function of humor is in a human community and in human life. But especially it's a communal thing, I think. And the sense of beauty, I have an interpretation of why a cultural animal would would it be advantageous for such an animal to have a way of responding to certain kinds of things, which we call beautiful, and which has got to do with things being really ordered in just the right way. A love of the ideal, you might say, is good for a cultural animal to have because once you open up the range of human possibilities, it becomes more possible to take a wrong path. And so pleasure in what beauty represents, I could go into that, but that is advantageous because it motivates people to take the better path rather than the worse. I don't know if that works, but it's the best I got at the moment. And then there's that spiritually transformative thing where people get into a level of experience where things come alive in a more profound and vivid way, and that it's a place within which what in a different frame might be considered, yeah, that's of value. In this frame, there's a sense of that is sacred. That is something which is woven through the cultures, woven through history, that may not be the best possible language for it, but there is a special domain that people enter into that is like value to the nth degree. And then I'm asking myself, I've been looking at this a bit. You can go on my website, betterhumanstory.org, down to a portal which is titled something like life-serving experiential tendencies or something like that. I've been thinking about what these kinds of things, what it is that we find sacred. I'm starting to toy with the idea that we shouldn't have too mechanical or mundane an image about what human consciousness is. This is a little bit half-baked still, but when we know that all of these things that we share as human beings, many of us, or in this community at large, as experiential tendencies, if we know that each one of them has helped our ancestors to survive, and then examine what is it that's being selected for then? What does it mean that human consciousness has gotten shaped over whatever the starting point is, but gotten shaped into a place where there are going to be some things that are sacred and some things that are beautiful and some things that are, well, laughter is about more than funny, but funny is part of our repertoire, that's for sure. I don't know, there's some which is not materialistic exactly. And it's maybe shows that there's a deeper thing that's being selected for, in which the sacred is actually part, in which the experience of meaning. So human consciousness seems to have in it things pointing toward I don't know, some kind of multidimensional component of meaningfulness. The experiential realm that human beings have because of our consciousness includes things that are, I don't know, should I say, of a spiritual nature? Is that what it is? And I'm not saying necessarily that this thing that we humans have with our musicality, our sense of humor, and our spiritually transformative experiences, and our, all that. I'm not saying that they're unique to us as a species. My guess is that they're there. I mean, chimpanzees seem to have a sense of humor, that's for sure. And I've seen pictures of, like a deer or a couple deer sitting on a little hillock looking at a beautiful sunset. So as the sun sets, they're taking it in. Is that an experience of taking pleasure in beauty? Well, I wouldn't be too surprised. But in any event, however unique or not unique we are, it seems to me that as evolution has been shaping consciousness, it's been selecting for a way of imaging or reality that is filled with meaning and has moral and spiritual dimensions to it. And I don't know for sure, exactly what to make of that. Is that some kind of breakthrough out of scientific reductionism? Or is that is that an expansion of anything really? Is it maybe showing that reality is more than we usually imagine when we're thinking empirically and rationally? What did selection favor in human consciousness? And what does that fact signify? Half-baked, I realize. Don't know what it was going to look like if it ever gets fully baked. But I think there's a real question there. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to me if you're willing to do so, if you'd like to be getting those notifications. And especially please go to abetterhumanstory.org, where I have labored to create a picture of the human story, of our situation as the creatures that evolved out of biological process and then unleashed something that we're having difficulty contending with when we extricated ourselves from the niche in which we evolved biologically by inventing our own way of life. And I'm in quest of human nature because I think it's really got a lot more beauty to it than we generally understand. That book shows that the ugliness that we see in human history is not a clear picture of human nature. So, and now in this, I'm talking about these experiential tendencies. I'm trying to mine, well, what is our human nature? How should we see the kind of creatures that we are? Thank you. Bye-bye.